getting it settled. It's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and where else would I be but here with you? DJ Stutz here with Little Hearts Academy and Imperfect Heroes podcast. And so I'm still up at the lake. I don't know if it shows real well, but that lake is inspirational. And so I'm out here in the beauty of I don't think there's a prettier place on earth. You could go all over the world, and I think that you wouldn't find beauty as nice as this. So anyway, enough with that. Today, we dropped the podcast yesterday, and so this is something that's kind of cool. So it drops on Monday morning. You have all day Monday and then all day Tuesday to listen to it. And then if you're interested and want to get in on this, on the live, ask questions, give your thoughts, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what questions. Oh, I said questions. But then we can have a conversation if that's what you would like to do. But if you want to participate in it, you're going to have to be here on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. So we'll see where we go from there. I might move on to something on Instagram as well, but for now, that's just an investigative thing, and we're going to keep going with Facebook. And I think I'll always do Facebook. I might do both Facebook and Instagram, but we'll see where we go with all of that. All right. So this week's podcast is with just one of the sweetest, kindest women I've ever met. She is so wonderful. Her name is Portia Claire, and she's from back east, and she actually, a puppy's tale, Forever Friends, a puppy's tale, and she's talking about a child who had this great little puppy, and everything was great. They did everything together. And she's actually the child in the story. And she uses her nickname that her daddy gave her. But something goes wrong with the puppy, and it starts having seizures. And eventually the puppy passes. And she's just heartbroken. Well, in the podcast, we talked about ways that you can help your child. Because if you have pets, it's going to happen. It just happens. Dogs get old, cats get old. They live sometimes longer than dogs, but they can be very near and dear to a child. And then there are the smaller animals. I know that in my family at one point, I think we had 15 animals. We had a rabbit, and we had gerbils, and we had fish, and we had birds, and we had a dog, actually 2 dogs and a cat, and all of those things going on in our home when the kids were little, and they loved having those animals around and playing with them and having those responsibilities. There's so many great things about having animals, teaching kids about empathy and kindness and responsibility and schedules. Dogs have to be fed every morning, every evening, and so you're learning all of these things. And there's a lot of research that shows that kids who grow up with a pet, and more specifically a dog or a cat, but other pets can fall in, but they do learn these things. They have better social skills. They have less incidents or fewer incidents of depression and anxiety, and we all know that there are mostly dogs that get trained to help people with anxiety or with health issues and stuff. And so they are super willing to look at these animals as superheroes in their lives and friends in their lives and companions for them. There are many wonderful things about having a dog. Now there's the negative too. And so sometimes a dog may not turn out to have the personality that is meshing with your child and with your family, or it runs away, or it dies, or there's all kinds of things But the good, I feel, far outweighs the bad. Now, that depends too on if you're in an apartment all day and you don't have a chance for the dog to get out as much as it needs to, or the cat. You've got the litter box, you've got things to deal with. And so you have to decide and really look at, is a pet really going to fit with our family? I know I had a student this year, and he's the youngest of 4, I think, and the older kids really wanted a dog, and so they went and they got a cute little rescue dog, and this little guy, my student, was scared out of his mind of the dog, and he wouldn't come out of his bedroom, and he would be in a panic, or he'd run to jump up on a chair. And the puppy did have a lot of energy. It wasn't like he was watching the kid and thinking, why is he running and jumping up on that chair? This puppy was more than happy to chase this little boy, which is what a puppy would think the boy would want to have done, because that's what the dog would want to have done. And so they did wind up deciding as a family that it wasn't time yet, and they took the puppy back. And it's funny that as we went through the year, this is early in the year, I think more like October or around there, and by the end of the year, he was telling me how he's older, and he doesn't think he would be afraid of the puppy anymore. So maybe it is time to try again. You have to really know your kids, know what's going on. You might want to go to a shelter or even to a puppy store and see how they react to that energy that goes on with a little puppy. So, deciding if it's the right time. But when the puppy dies, that is something that's really hard. It's hard on the adults as well. I know that when, I've been married for 1,000,000 years. We've been raising our family. We've gone through a few dogs, and some of them have been, most of them have been very, very tender and loving, and we've hung on to them maybe longer than we even should have in retrospect and looking back, but not wanting to put them down. And it was very hard emotionally for all of us when it was time. And so there are some of the things that you can do, and one of the things that we talk about in our podcast is that you could make a memory box, and you let the child put in things, or the children all have something that they contribute that helps them remember the puppy. So it might be their leash or their collar. There could be some pictures. There could be their tags, just their tags that are there. But something that is meaningful to the child. Now, your box may not be big enough to hold a big old blanket or their bed, but you can cut out maybe a little piece of that and put it in and help them remember. And so then when the child is wanting to think about the dog or talk about the dog, this is something you can pull out, and it helps us with starting those conversations that can be, a little tough and a little hard and tender. And it's really important to recognize that just as we as adults may grieve differently, if you have more than one kid, your kids are going to grieve differently. And it's going to be really important to allow them to grieve in the way that's right for them. And they will be the lead on that. And so, sometimes they just want to sit quietly maybe with their memory box, and they don't want you there right then. Or other times they're going to want you there. And it could be the same kid wanting different things at different times. So let's be aware of that, and perhaps helping your child write their own story about their dog and the fun things that they did. And you can draw pictures, and they can dictate the story to you, and you can write them down. You can go and make a little book, Kinko's or whatever place that you can go to. They have spirals. They have all kinds of ways that you can put a book together. They'll even help you with getting maybe a stronger paper that will be longer lasting, and some things like that will really help you with that. I have found them to be especially with something like this, to be super helpful in making it and giving you options, which is what you really want. And so then you've got this book that you can go back and look at and talk about. But the process of writing it and sharing those stories are really cathartic and inspiring and soothing, and it helps a child really explain more about how they're feeling, what's important to them, all of that stuff that is just crazy important that you are helping your child with. And it's okay to tell your child too, yeah, I'm just really sad. I miss Toby. That was one of our first family dogs, and Toby lived to be 14 years old and was a gentleman. He was a little teeny poodle, about 10 pounds. And we've actually had, Aspen was even smaller. She was only 5 pounds, but you know, he was deaf, he was blind, and poor Toby. But we finally realized, and the vet helped us realize, that it was time to go. And I was very, very sad about it. It broke my heart when it was time to let Toby go. So it's okay. We want to respect them, but we also want to know that, you know, if they're not talking about it and they're holding everything inside, you know, after about a week or two, you might want to, instead of saying, oh, we need to talk about Toby, just say, I am missing Toby so much today. Could I share some stories with you? Then it's more like your child is helping you, and they are more likely to open up and share some of their emotions and feelings about their pet than if you just try to grill them and push them on what that means. And I truly believe all dogs go to heaven. I believe there's a place for them up there as well as other animals that are there. And so maybe to talk about that, if that's part of our faith tradition, bring that in and share that with your child. And so